Hello and welcome to the Nerd Ninja Horror Show. I am your Fright Master, Freddy Ruiz, guiding you through all that shrieks, shreds, and shivers in the horror world. Joining me as always is my murderous partner, Ash Von Horror, and today we are taking a lovely flesh-peeling scroll through the Hellraiser franchise.
We will also talk about I don't know how to describe it, but it's called Deathgasm. And we let Freddy get sentimental. Let's hope he doesn't get too sappy on us. So let's get this horror train rolling. Freddy, take it away.
One of the greatest and at the same time most terrible movie franchises of all time is Clive Barker's Hellraiser series. Based on Barker's novella, The Hellbound Heart, we get to see his directing debut and we are treated to a story of an ancient puzzle box that, once solved, unleashes demonic forces called Cenobites, considered to be demons to some and angels to others. It is through this film that we are introduced to one of the most legendary horror icons in film history, Doug Bradley's Pinhead.
The film exploded and spawned 8 sequels that over the years grew further away from the creative Clive Barker. Barker himself had only directed part 1 and had a handwriting part 2. But as the series continued, the only reoccurring factor was Doug Bradley as Pinhead. That was until 2011 Hellraiser Revelations. Bradley was said to be so disheartened by how terrible the script was, he for the first time turned down the role of Pinhead, which he had always played in every single Hellraiser film made, even the ones that forced the character into the script after the fact. Hellraiser Revelations was quickly rushed into production to keep the rights under the Dimension Film Production Company. So let's recap the series.
Hellraiser 1 features Frank Cotton purchasing an ancient puzzle box from Morocco, and he returns to his childhood home to solve the puzzle. Upon solving it, chains emerge from the darkness, tearing him apart. Frank's brother Larry moves back in the home with his wife Julia, who had been having an affair with Frank. Upon cutting his hand and bleeding down on the spot where Frank was torn apart, Frank materializes as a blood-soaked body, missing its skin and parts of its intestines. Julia begins luring men to the house so Frank can take their life force and become whole again. Larry's daughter, Christy, decided to investigate Larry's disappearance and Julia's strange behavior. She finds the box and solves the puzzle, unleashing strange creatures called Cenobites. She makes a deal with them to help return Frank to hell, and the saga of Pinhead and his Cenobites begins. So, Hellraiser 1, one of the best movies of all time. Can we agree on that?
We can agree on that.
I love this movie. Actually, when I first saw it a long time ago, with Clive Barker, it's weird. When I see his movies, they're so strange and full of so much stuff. I don't know how to process it all. And Hellraiser 1 especially, as opposed to the other movies, it has so much going for it. Like the hobo who turns into a demon at the end and takes the puzzle box.
That's the only part of the movie I did not understand.
There's this really cool part where like throughout the whole story, there's this hobo that's watching Christy. And at one point he's like, they're in a pet shop and he starts eating all the bugs and stuff inside the pet shop.
Beard.
Yeah, and he's like
eating the crickets.
It's freaky looking, but at the end you get this sweet like stop motion, pre-CGI giant demon monster.
Skeleton demon in the flames.
Because once Kirsty gets the box and fixes everything, she gives it to the hobo, and he just comes out bursting in the flames as this demon and takes the box away. That's the last you kind of see of it until the end, where it's like, the guy back in Morocco selling it to another person. And he's like, "What is your pleasure?"
It's like Jumanji, it never goes away.
Exactly, but like way more S&M and stuff like that.
Very S&M.
So how do you feel about the movie?
I actually like the first Hellraiser. I mean, obviously. But, and also, I don't think anybody could have done better than Doug Bradley playing Pinhead, because with this character, he has no emotion, except for in certain ways he kind of shows emotion, like when he talks about, killing people. And the fact that his makeup's fantastic in the movie. I
got PB Malott. Ash made me watch the first 2. Oh my God, she owes me. Who'd you scar?
That's my mother. And she was like, I was like, she's the reason why I watched horror movies, so thank you. We were looking on Netflix to see if they had the whole entire franchise, and I was letting her know that I was going to watch all of it, refresh my memory. And she's like, okay, I'm going to watch it with you. This is going to be cool. 2 hours later, I get a call. What did you make me watch? Y'all are both grounded. I am done. I can't watch this no more. So I had to watch the rest of them and explain to her what was going on.
Oh my God, that's insane. So there's like a weird time period in my life where I just, for some reason, it was actually after Freddy versus Jason. I saw that for the first time, and I just want to get every like horror movie I get my hands on, especially like, I guess, slashers or like horror icons. And so Hellraiser at first to me, like I said, was just really weird. And it took me, I guess, up until like 4 years ago to finally appreciate, where I watched it again. I was like, oh my God, this thing is so crazy and genius. Like,
Yeah, because when I first watched it, it was just kind of like, wait, I don't know what to do with this movie.
what's going on with this box and everything, and demons and angels.
Yeah, like, I don't know about this movie. In Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, Kirsty, surviving the first film, had been admitted to a psychiatric hospital after telling her stories of demonic forces and an evil puzzle box. Her doctor, Dr. Channard, uses her as he's been in search of the box, the Lamech configuration, for many years. He takes evidence from the crime scene and resurrects Julia, who helps him achieve his wildest dreams and pleasures using the box. As Christy learns the secrets of the Cenobites and finds out that they were all once human, she aids them in taking down Channard and helps them regain their humanity.
So for me, I love this one a lot more because you kind of get into the Cenobite story.
Yeah, you get more of their history a little bit.
You also find out, like, you see Doug Bradley becoming Pinhead, you know, when he's Elliot, you know, the human. So you see him finding the box and opening it up, and he becomes Pinhead, and it goes in the story of, like, all of the Cenobites were actually humans at one point. And you never kind of get that in the first movie, like, any sense of that at all.
Yeah, I didn't expect them to be human. And then when it showed her going through, like, you know, all the files, and then it shows Doug Bradley as another character, and you're just like, wait a minute.
What's he doing?
Why? Who? What? And then you discover that he was human. He plays with the box. Boom, we got Pinhead.
Dude, the doctor, Dr. Chenard, when he becomes a Cenobite himself, and he's got like all these
nasty,
monstrous contortions and stuff coming out, and like
he looked like
instruments.
The Thing.
He did look like the Thing.
That's what it
was so
made me
John
think
Carpenter.
of, is the Thing with the little, like, going like this and grabbing and all the extensions and the Thing holding onto his head. It reminded me so much of the Thing.
Christy really comes in her own hardcore in this one too, because at one point, to save someone else, she actually wears Julia's skin.
Yeah.
Julia, the wife from the first movie.
The stepmother.
Yeah, she uses her skin to trick Dr. Chenard, who's kind of in love with her, and she stabs him to death because he's like, oh, it's Julia, I love her. And that was pretty crazy because she's trying to save this girl who doesn't trust Julia after she stabs him, and she's like, no, it's me, and like peels off Julia's
and when
face.
she's holding her hand too, and the skin starts stretching out, and you're just like, oh God, she's gonna drop her. And then she grabs on, and then when she gets up, she like just flesh.
Yeah, exactly. Also, Clive Barker wrote this one. He kept off with the franchise a little bit before he went away, but fun fact for me, Tony Randall directed this movie, who also directed Ticks, which is one of the cheesiest 90s greatness movies of all time. Seth Green and the kid from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Carlton, as a street thug who fights giant monstrous ticks.
That's interesting.
So that brings us to Hellraiser 3. Hellraiser 3 is about the Pillar of Souls, in which Pinhead is separated into two people, Captain Spencer and his id, Pinhead. A reporter named Joey is contacted by the spirit of Captain Elliot Spencer, who must stop Pinhead from killing people and releasing him from the Pillar of Souls by binding Captain Spencer to Pinhead once again. So I still like this one at this point. I'm kind of digging the franchise. The Pillar of Souls was a cool thing, I thought. It was, you know, the cliffhanger at the end of the first movie, just like the bed was the cliffhanger at the end of the second movie, just like the bed was the cliffhanger at the end of the first movie. So I was down for it. It looked cool. After you see Pinhead sacrifice himself, kind of, you know, becoming human again, it was kind of weird to see this Pinhead again. But they explain it, you know, it's like two different people.
At least there's not a huge major plot hole in this one.
Exactly. There's still a cool concept there. Plus you see the Pinhead side, the id, kind of come in and like start taking over people, and you see him actually making new Cenobites.
They were cool looking, by the way. I like the whole new Cenobites coming in, especially with the girl that she was helping through the movie, where it was helping her through the movie.
Well, I also like the DJ Cenobite, who's like takes out a CD and is like chunking it at people.
Her friend with the camera in the eye.
Oh yeah, camera head guy.
Yeah.
That was probably one of my favorites, honestly.
Yeah, I liked him because she was just like, you know, realizing that's her friend, and then he's just like zooming, and then
time to murder everyone.
I like how she was like randomly running through the city, and like all these people were kind of watching, and then you see all these explosions, and her just not running properly, in my opinion.
Ivex says, I've only seen the first 3. I didn't know there were so many. Honestly, you're good right there. I mean, she sat through more of them than me. I've got through the first 5 or 6, and then I've know enough, like seeing bits and pieces of the others. You don't really need anything else.
You don't really.
Because it'll make you cry.
We will explain why in a second.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, on to Hellraiser 4.
Horror movies die in space.
This is Pinhead in space. Literally. And in the past, like we get past, present, and future. The past, we go back to the guy in the spaceship. It's his ancestor who created the box. He was the toy maker.
Toy maker Philip Lamarchand.
Yes. Yeah. So it shows the past where he makes the little box for the aristocrat guy that wanted the box. He's a, what would you call it? A dark magician, like messes with the dark magician. Arts. Yeah, like I don't know.
He's very hoity-toity. Like
I hated that character.
I want to kill people.
George Washington on crack. I don't know how to describe
him.
He
honestly, he looks like Malcolm McDowell does in that new 31 movie with like the big thing. He looks like
that mental image is so bad in my head right now.
It's a really bad movie. It's the last one Clive Barker was actually going to have anything to do with. And,
I don't blame him.
You know, it's sad because it has a really great director. For those of you who don't know, Kevin Yeager, he's the guy who did all the animatronics for Chucky. He's been in the industry as a special effects guy forever. He did 2 episodes of Tales from the Crypt, which I know you love. And one of my favorite ones he did was... There's, it's a little animatronic doll because he was known for the animatronics because the guy who made Chucky, man, come on. So the project was taken from him so hardcore in the movie. It was, I believe the Weinsteins and Miramax were like, Pinhead takes too long for him to get in the movie. Because you got, like, you said, The Past in 1796 with Philip Lamarchand. You get...
1996, right?
Yeah, it goes to 1996. Where Adam Scott, of all people, from Parks and Rec, if you know, or upcoming, Krampus too, he plays a servant named Jacques, and he kills the Duke de Lille, the aristocrat who has the box made, and goes to years and years later, 1996, and he's still alive, perfectly young.
With the demon Angelique.
Yeah, with the demon Angelique. And so you find out that Philip Lamarchand, the toy maker, his ancestor is built a giant building in the shape of the configuration. And it's an office building.
That was cool looking, though.
It was, there's a lot going on. So the producers were like, okay, Pinhead, it's taking too long to get Pinhead in this movie. Let's hurry it up. So they changed the whole movie completely. And it was so changed. Kevin Yeager actually walked off set. The only movie he's ever directed, the only movie he ever wanted to do. And he walked off set. It was so bad and the vision was taking him so much that he changed his alias on the film to Alan Smithy, which in Hollywood, you can only do that as a sure name. It's been used on many films taken for directors. If the project you started is so different from what your vision was when it's done, you can change your alias to Alan Smithy. And Joe Chappelle, another director who finished Yeager's stuff, was so displeased with it and had so little stuff he could put to it. Yeah, they were both Alan Smithy, so it's really weird. I wanted to like it.
It's not the worst sequel,
It's definitely not the worst. There's actually a lot from Clive Barker's comics that he made over the years. Like, the building being a construct, you walk around the building and it, opens up the portal. Mm-hmm. So it's cool stuff. But, all right. Then we get Hellraiser 5, which I feel like has a lot of promise. Scott Derrickson, who made Sinister... He's making Doctor Strange right now. He's a really good writer-director. This was his first film. It's also the first Hellraiser to go straight to DVD.
And I can understand why.
Yeah. The sad part is it screams Scott Derrickson, the way he writes. He also wrote Exorcism Emily Rose. Such a crime drama feel to it with supernatural elements. If you saw Deliverers from Evil, his other movie, very in tone with that one. And then it's like, it shows Pinhead like 10 minutes in the movie, and then like doesn't appear till like 10 minutes till the end.
And
that was
I
the
hated
whole
this
thing.
one so bad. It's not even funny.
Well, yeah, and you were saying like before, all the Hellraisers after were
Yes.
other scripts, right?
Yes, this movie, for those who do not know and who have not seen it, this script was for another movie. It had nothing to do with the Hellraiser series. But like I mentioned earlier, they got some scripts and they just tossed in Pinhead, and then there you go, we got a Hellraiser movie. This movie is literally a crime thriller, and then suddenly Pinhead shows up and it turns into a horror movie.
The weird thing that killed me is my favorite Clive Barker movie of all time is Nightbreed. If you haven't seen Nightbreed, it's literally about the city of Midian, where all these monsters in this world live, and they worship this creature called Baphomet, who is their god. And there is Craig Sheffer, who plays Aaron Boone in the movie. In 1990, he played that role for Clive Barker. It was Clive Barker's biggest budget movie. Studio messed with it so much. If you guys haven't seen it, it's on Netflix right now, and it is Clive Barker's director's cut Scream Factory put out. I cannot recommend that movie anymore. Interesting enough, 1990, Nightbreed, perfect Clive Barker engine. Craig Sheffer plays Boone in that movie. 2000, plays the detective for Scott Derrickson in Hellraiser 5. One of the weirdest movies, but I feel like I would have liked it, honestly, if
it wasn't a Hellraiser movie, it would have been fine on its own.
Exactly. It could have been so much more. Like,
yeah.
As I said, as I'm watching, I'm like, this is decent, but why is Pinhead in this?
But it's also still kind of not the worst one.
Well, there's a lot of Cenobites in it, too.
Yeah.
But just
a little bit.
Yeah, it's the thing.
Which leads us to Hellraiser 6, the return of Kirsty Cotton, who offers Pinhead 5 souls in exchange for hers, her husband, 3 of his mistresses, and her husband's friend who wants to kill her for her fortune. The only redeeming part about this movie is that they brought her back.
You get Kirsty back, yeah.
That's the only good thing about it.
But, okay.
But you kind of get her back. Because it's more focused on her husband than anything.
I disagree with it being a good thing. If anything, it pisses off anyone who loves Hellraiser, because you want Christy to have kind of a happy ending. She literally went through hell. Okay, but her husband's like cheating on her, and she's calling on demons and stuff. Basically, like, hey, Cenobites, remember when I, helped you out? You owe me a solid.
But here's the thing. You don't know this until towards the end of the movie when Pinhead reveals all this to the husband. Because the whole entire time, you're thinking the husband's innocent. They get into a car accident in the beginning of the film. The film starts off with them happy and lovey and being all cute with each other. And then they wreck. They go into a lake. Husband gets out, watches her drown. Cops come in. They can't find the body. And then the husband has amnesia. And he doesn't remember anything, and his boss is coming on to him. He's having these weird hallucinations. He's not understanding anything that's going on. And as the movie progresses, you're slowly realizing this dude is a douchebag, and he totally deserves to die.
Pretty much. I will say we have a question here. Crystal Star Wars, what is our favorite Hellraiser movie? Which one's yours?
The first one.
First one? I gotta go with Hellbound Hellraiser 2. Actually, also Fat Narcissist. He likes Jason X. I like that movie too. You're talking about Hellraiser in space. You never really finished it. If you're going in it for Hellraiser in space, it's barely in the movie. It's the beginning
like
and
Jason
the end.
X.
No, Jason X is at least campy fun. Hellraiser 4 in space is, okay, where do we go? There's this movie.
It's flip-flopping.
It just makes no sense. This series just gets worse and worse, honestly. It
really does.
It makes me depressed a little bit because it could have been one of the best things ever.
It could have been so good. I don't know.
Well, it doesn't get any better with Hellraiser Deader. Hellraiser Deader. It's a great title, by the way. Mm-hmm. The 7th in the series, written by Neil Marshall Stevens, who wrote the 13 Ghosts remake. What the hell is this movie about? I don't even know. I'm not even going to lie.
Do you want to know?
Please enlighten us.
Do you want to know? Okay, so the Deader that you're cracking jokes about is a group of people who've been resurrected by this guy named Winter, who's a descendant of the guy who made the freaking toy, that made the box. And the journalist, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're in Romania. She goes to find this guy. She ends up discovering the box. Oh my God. And
it sounds terrible.
It gets worse because how she comes up across this Winter dude and these Deader people is her boss brings her in this tape. It shows them convince this girl to kill herself. So it shows her put the gun to her head. She blows off her head. And then he does this weird thing where it looks like he's kissing her. I'm not really sure what he's doing. And then next thing you know, she's alive. And I mean, they're dead, but they're alive. So kind of like zombies in a way.
Deader.
And he can kind of control them. And the reason why he's doing this is because he can't figure out how to open the box, which if you watch this franchise, it seems like everybody can open this box when it's not supposed to be the case. So since he can't open the box, he's getting all these people, turning them into these debtors, and trying to get them to open the box so that he can release the Cenobites so that he can have control of the Cenobites because he thinks it's in his destiny to control the Cenobites. QN journalist who steps up. He decides to kill her.
Generic journalist.
Yes, generic journalist. I like the actress, but oh God, it's horrible. But anyway, then you get her coming in. He kills her. She doesn't realize she's dead until like later on in the movie. And then he wants her to open the box. Eventually gets the box open. Out pops Pinhead finally throughout the movie, and then everybody dies. There's your movie. Literally.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
It is horrible. It is so bad.
And that brings us to
Hellraiser 8, Hellworld, starring Lance Henriksen from Aliens fame, plays the host, who interestingly enough was originally offered the role of Frank Cotton in the original Hellraiser, but turned it down for Near Dark. So this movie is really special on its own too.
Okay, so I love Lance Henriksen. He's one of those guys like Danny Trejo who is awesome in a lot of crappy movies, but when he's in the right movie, it's just elated.
Mm-hmm.
I
agree.
Okay, I love Near Dark too. And I think it would have been cool to see Lance Henriksen in the first Hellraiser. You know, he's supposed to play Frank Cotton.
I don't know if I would want to see him in that position, though.
It's kind of weird. He plays a very good father figure if you look at like Pumpkinhead.
Yeah.
So he's just a great character actor. But I love Near Dark, so I'm down with it. Why?
Okay, so this movie,
Why?
unlike the other Hellraisers, this movie's based off, technically used to be 6 friends. One of them kills themselves because of this game called Hellworld, hence Hellraiser Hellworld. So the guy kills himself. Flash forward 2 years later, you got these 5 friends who still hang out, except for one who kind of distanced himself from the rest of them. And they get this invite to a Hellworld private party by this person called the host, which is his character. You don't really know much about him except for he owns this really huge mansion. He's throwing this crazy party. I mean, crazy party. They all decide to go in, and then slowly, one by one, they're all getting killed off. You don't know if they're hallucinating. You don't know if Pinhead's actually doing it, and you do see Pinhead and his Cenobites, or you don't know if it's the host's character doing it. And then you discover who he is.
Who is he?
He's the father of the guy who killed himself. So as a revenge tactic, he's killing off the friends one by one because he blames them for his death.
Okay, so this sounds like a mixture of that crappy video game movie Stay Alive.
It's pretty much Stay Alive with Hellraiser.
And Night of the Demons a little bit.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, and so like in the movie, all the friends that are playing the game Hellworld, they're all huge friends of the Hellraiser series. Like they mention the Hellraiser franchise throughout the movie. There's people wearing Pinhead shirts. They're talking about the movies. He has all the props from the movies.
My God.
He has the boxes.
This is that stupid movement in that time period where it's like everybody has to be Kevin Williamson self-referential, isn't it?
Pretty much.
That's terrible.
That's what this movie was. Oh, and Henry Cavill, Superman, is in this movie.
What does Henry Cavill do?
He's the stupid...
I'm generic jock number 5.
Jock attracted to the main character. She wants nothing to do with me, so I'm going to go mess with this other girl and get killed. Pretty much.
Dear God.
And then Lorgetha from Vikings is also in this movie. She's the main character.
See, everybody's coming from the Hellraiser franchise. Like, I'm moving on to better things, but I got to start in this crap.
They had to start somewhere.
Well, boys and girls, that leads us to the aforementioned Hellraiser Revelations. Dear God.
I don't even want to talk about it.
With the horrible failure of Hellraiser Revelations, Dimension and the Weinsteins decided to go with a remake as many of Pinhead's contemporaries had been financially successful in their remakes, including Dimension's remake of the Halloween franchise. The first attempt at remaking the Hellraiser franchise came from director Pascal Laugier, who had made one of the most disturbing films of all time, Martyrs, a film of which Laugier even apologizes for making on the home video release.
The next attempt at a Hellraiser reboot comes from Todd Farmer, who had been a writer for Sean S. Cunningham of the Friday 13th fame. Farmer, having helped pen Jason X, had recent success with his writing partner and director Patrick Lussier on the remake of My Bloody Valentine. Even with great reference for Clive Barker's original, the duo did not want to just retell the film. Their vision was to tell the tale of a hellish world within the puzzle box and its origins. Even with an interesting premise for the film and great concept artwork, the studio pulled the plug again and the remake remained dead in the water. More recently, a remake reemerged with actual hope as Clive Barker himself stated he would be returning to helm the film, with Doug Bradley returning as Pinhead. Supposedly, the deal with the Weinsteins had been completed, and his biggest vision for the film would send the franchise back to its roots, opting for practical special effects instead of relying heavily on CGI.
Recently, our hopes for Clive Barker's reimagining were pulled apart by chains with the announcement of Hellraiser Judgment a few weeks ago. The film seemingly came out of nowhere without any statements on the status of Clive Barker's remake or what happened to it. Makeup effects artist Gary Turncliffe was recently announced to direct the new film. Turncliffe, best known for doing the Pinhead makeup since Hellraiser 3, as well as working on sequels for The Return of the Living Dead and the 90s Halloween sequels, promises a true blue Hellraiser film unlike anything we've ever seen. Another black mark on this movie is the announcement that Doug Bradley will not be returning to the role of Pinhead once again, even though he has a great professional relationship with Doug Bradley, Turncliffe. I myself am very conflicted by the ideas of this new film, but there might be one little bit of information that you might like, Ash. Heather Langenkamp, who portrayed Nancy in the original Nightmare on Elm Street, has been added to the cast. With that news, are you sold on the validity of this film?
No, I'm not.
Not at all?
Not at all. It's kind of like with Freddy. If you try to get a new guy playing the character, I want nothing to do with it. That remake that they gave us back in 2011 was proof of that.
Even with Heather Langenkamp.
I love her, but like I've learned my lesson with liking actors and then watching all their crap movies. I can only go so far before I'm like, okay, I love you, but I can't do this no more. This relationship's kind of like I can only go so far.
So the Heather Langenkamp thing was like one of the first things that come out of this, because this
That was
film
the first
just
thing I saw.
came together out of nowhere over a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And so Turncliffe, I was like, all right, that guy, he's been in the industry. He's done a lot of makeup work and stuff, and he knows Doug Bradley really well, like I said. And he's been working on the Hellraiser films for quite some time. What turned me off, he wrote Hellraiser Revelations, that terrible remake that had no one from any of the other movies and had nothing to do with anything. Doug Bradley wasn't Pinhead. It was the first time we didn't see Doug Bradley as Pinhead. So I was so pissed about that. It's based off a Kickstarter he did a long time ago called Hellraiser Judgment. Or not Hellraiser Judgment, sorry. It's just called Judgment. And there's a couple characters like the Auditor and the Jury. And it sounded really cool. The Judgment, screenplay that they put out there, he talked about it being like a farmhouse where you had this giant machine from hell and you put souls through it and it judged if they were worthy to go to heaven or had to go to hell. I was like, that sounds like a cool concept. And then out of nowhere, it's like a murder mystery detective case under Hellraiser Judgment.
Yeah.
And now Langenkamp's in it, but you still have all the characters from his original screenplay, like the Auditor and the Jury and all these other weirdos that sound like Cenobites, but for some reason, Turncliffe, in his thing where he's talking about how he wants all of the characters in there to be naked.
Of course.
So
women always have to be naked in horror movies to get people's attention. Now the question is, are they just rushing another sequel into development with the Hellraiser namesake? Several of the Hellraiser sequels were other projects that shoehorn Pinhead into the narrative and put under the title Hellraiser just to get the production of the film to retain the Hellraiser rights, much like Hellraiser 5, 6, and 7. In fact, the subtitle Judgment was in itself the title of a Kickstarter film Turncliffe had back in 2013. And on an interesting side note, the original Kickstarter has been resurfacing for the new Hellraiser film.
I don't even know what to say with that, man.
I don't even know what to do with that.
I want it to be good so bad because it's a guy who I kind of trust. He's done good work, makeup work, and I love practical effects. That's like my bread and butter right there. And he's talking about how, Doug Bradley's not coming back. He has a new guy, and he talks about him as being part Ray Fiennes, Voldemort from Harry Potter, and part Peter Cushing. Which that's old school, like Hammer Films Dracula. That sounds kind of cool. But
at the same time,
it's not Doug Bradley. I mean,
it's not Doug Bradley.
It does kind of seem like he's shoehorning Hellraiser in
He'll probably be better than the other guy.
I hope.
I would hope.
I mean, well, the other guy's just like
That other guy was
Jesus.
That was bad.
Fat looking pinhead with everything.
That was so bad.
Somebody keeps asking us what our favorite Disney movie is.
Beauty and the Beast.
I'm gonna go with Mary Poppins because it's kind of like a witch and that's kind of brutal, or Bedknobs and Broomsticks because it is the most metal movie of all time, hands down.
I just go with Beauty and the Beast. That was my favorite.
I mean,
I like Beast.
It's good to make you cry, kind of like this movie will probably make us cry.
It takes a lot to make me cry.
But like tears of like, oh God, this Hellraiser movie is gonna be so bad.
Oh, like how I felt yesterday when I was watching it.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I don't know. Like I said, I want it to be good, but this movie just came out of nowhere like 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, and Doug Bradley posted on his Instagram too.
He's
like
so mad.
He is so mad.
Because wasn't the whole NDA thing right? Mm-hmm. Basically, Turncliffe was gonna, he asked Doug Bradley, "You want to be in the movie?" Doug Bradley said, "All right, well, send me a script." He goes, "Well, first you gotta sign a non-disclosure agreement." And Doug Bradley was like, "Well, the hell with you," and that was it. Switching over to a new guy, and I don't know, man. Like, I want a good Hellraiser movie, but at the same time, we had a remake coming with Clive Barker, all practical effects.
And I don't know why they.
Why they
tanked it for.
This was like the huge news last year, guys. This was one of the things that had me most excited.
It would have been like when Wes Craven came back with New Nightmare.
Exactly. And it was around the time that he did the Nightbreed special director's cut for Scream Factory. So he's back in the game. He was so wanting to go back into Hollywood. He wanted to prove his chops again, and I just don't know what happened. Like, is this still happening? Kind of like how with the Child's Play franchise, they kind of still have a remake they're talking about, but they're still doing sequels.
Still doing. They're doing another one, aren't they?
Yeah, they are doing another one.
Yeah.
I don't know, guys.
We'll see.
I guess you can see for yourselves. We'll keep talking about it as more info comes out because it literally comes out every 2 seconds. But Jesus.
Well, there you have it. Hellraiser in a gruesome little teeth-chattering nutshell. All we can do now is hope that whatever form this franchise takes moving forward can relive some of that hellish magic. Moving on to something a little more present day, Freddie, you have a new film to tell us about, correct?
Oh my God, do I. There are no new horror home video releases this week, so I thought we could take a look back at a recent video release with the gore-guided, metal-manic, Kiwi-killing film, Deathgasm, brought to us by one of my new favorite directors, Jason Leigh Howden. Deathgasm follows social outcast and metalhead Brody, whom after his crackhead mom gets hauled off to jail, must survive life with his Bible-thumping aunt and uncle and their jackass jock of a son. Within this hellish life, Brody finds solace in metal music and finds a brother in metal when he meets Zach, whose name is so brutal it is spelled with 2 Ks, just like Zach Wilde. The two friends form a band and name it Deathgasm. While going about their usual debauchery, they stumble upon the house of legendary metal god Ricky Daggers, and from him they steal satanic sheet music that unleashes demon upon their New Zealand town. It's now up to Deathgasm to stop the onslaught of demons with their metal, chainsaws, and in one instance, sex toys. This is one of the most insane movies in existence, and it's reminiscent of Peter Jackson's Dead Alive and Sam Raimi's Evil Dead with a badass metal soundtrack. Ash, I know you like your music heavy, your movies gory, and your demons to look badass. Did I do good with this pick?
I forgive you for making me watch Hellions.
I win. Everyone, please,
seriously,
please,
you need
please.
to watch this movie.
Oh my God.
If you love Evil Dead, seriously, this is Evil Dead with heavy metal. Not even joking.
It's so awesome.
It's so good. It's so good.
Okay, so first of all, Jason Leigh Howden, he worked as a special effects guy on all the Lord of the Rings movies. So he stole a lot of cast members from like stunt double people from Lord of the Rings movies, especially the Hobbits. Now, the interesting thing about this is a brutal movie. It has so much blood. It's called Deathgasm, for God's sakes. And it's so heavy metal infused. There's like nudity, all kinds of crazy stuff. So we get Milo Hawthorne there, right there, the guy in the beanie. He plays Brody. And then James Blue, he actually doubled for Thorin Oakenshield in the Hobbit movies. He plays Zach, who's so brutal he's got 2 Ks. They are the guys that come together and form Deathgasm. Brody, Milo Cawthorn, he actually played one of the Power Rangers in Power Rangers RPM. He plays the Green Shark Ranger, and now he's in Deathgasm. He's
Much better
also
choice.
he's also in Ash vs. Evil Dead the series, which is pretty awesome. Then we also get Kimberly Crossman. She's the kind of
blonde.
badass vixen in the movie. Her name is Medina. She was also in Power Rangers Red Samurai, and she played the Red Ranger, I believe, in that one. She starts off as this like ditzy little girl who then listens to metal for the first time.
Yeah, because she has like an attraction towards Brody.
Yeah,
a little
she's in
bit,
love with Brody.
even though she's with his cousin.
Who's like, jock jackass.
Total douchebag.
You will hate him so
Ultimate
much.
bully douchebag, waiting for him to die character you don't care about.
And it's so glorious
It's
when you
very
see him get
glorious.
his in the end. Oh my
That was the
god.
best part of the
I want to
movie.
cry. But yeah, okay, Medina, when she hears metal for the first time, I want to know what you thought of that sequence.
I think that's how everybody feels if you like metal and you listen to metal and you feel like you're on that mountain and you're just like being all badass and everything. And then, then it goes back to like reality. I think that's pretty accurate description of what it feels like to listen to metal music.
She literally puts in this metal CD, and as soon as the music hits, she sees herself on top of a mountain with an axe screaming, and like naked girls all around her.
I didn't know. Out of all of that, I'm like, why didn't they have dudes for her? Like, why is it gotta
Put 'em
be
on
chicks?
chains.
Like, have her on leashes or something. Like, why did it have to be two chicks making out? Other than that,
Almost Nerdy Ash says, reminded me of Brutal Legend. That is so true. If Brutal Legend was a movie, that would be this one. Oh my God, I love this movie so much.
this movie is very awesome.
We also got Stephen Uri, who plays Ricky Daggers, the legendary metalhead. He plays most of the orcs in the Lord of the Rings movies.
And that top photo, is that when they were trying to come up with the names for the bands? Yeah,
it's
Maggot Sperm.
It's so great because they're all trying to come up with names for their band, and they all kind of have moments like that. One of my other favorite moments, though, is there's another character called Giles, and he's like, ooh, what about if we just had a bunch of like S's, like a bunch of them? He's like, Sss, and there's just all these S's floating through the air. And of course,
kind of
Zach.
like Scott Pilgrim almost.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, Zach's just like, no, Deathgasm. All caps. Because we don't do lowercase.
Yeah, no lowercase.
That's for wussies.
Yes.
But no, guys, I cannot stress how great this movie is. It is the ultimate party movie of the year. It's even on the front of the Blu-ray, man. If you guys want to pick it up, I got my copy. Actually, I got so excited about it.
Yeah, because it's out on DVD, right?
It is
but I
out
don't
on
think
DVD
it's
and
on
Blu-ray.
Netflix yet, right?
Not yet.
Yeah.
It's on Blu-ray and DVD. It's hit a bunch of places. Do not get it at Walmart, because Walmart has the lame notion that Deathgasm and the imagery on the front of it is bad. So it's called Heavy Metal Apocalypse and looks like the worst movie ever. Like it's something Uwe...
Like National Lampoon's bad?
No, like something Uwe Boll would make. Jason Leigh Howden, actually, he won the 2013 Make My Horror Movie contest and got $200,000 to make it based on his enthusiasm and ideas alone. And as soon as the Blu-ray hit, I remember the day because I was so excited about it. It was like $12.99 at Best Buy. If it's still there, guys, pick up 20 copies because it's awesome. Support this movie. I bought 5 copies and just started giving them out to people. I'm like, please understand the greatness of this movie. Because now he is working on Deathgasm 2 Goremageddon. He says the first 10 pages of the movie is more bloody and brutal than the entirety of the first movie.
What?
Which I didn't think was possible at all.
How is that possible? This movie's pretty gore. Like not that fancy gore, like actual gore. Head splitting, decapitation, you name it. Blood shooting everywhere.
Let's see what we got here. Yeah, well, everybody's kind of agreeing. The movie sounds great. Seriously, guys, check this movie out. It's so awesome.
It's one of those movies that you should just buy it without watching and then watch it because it's totally worth it.
Well, and it has this sweet metal soundtrack. You get old school like bands like Skullfist, and there's the first time you see Brody listening to metal, he's like up on the mountain too, like rocking out with his guitar,
With the 2 chicks, and he's like
zapping stuff out of his eyes, and in the background you just go like, "Metal is the way." It's so badass, guys. I can't even stress that enough. Man, I can't wait to see what Jason Leigh Howden does. Actually, the thing that got me going really hardcore, Ash vs. Evil Dead, of course, one of my favorite movies of all time, now my favorite TV series of all time. It's filmed in New Zealand, and like I said, Brody, Milo Hawthorne, was in an episode of Ash vs. Evil Dead. I want Sam Raimi to get Jason Leigh Howden to actually do an episode of that.
Almost Nerdy Ash is asking, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate Deathgasm?
10 brutal stars. 10 metal, brutal, bloody, amazing, gory stars.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Seriously,
You remember how much she hated me for Hellions? I've wiped the slate clean with this movie.
Yes.
Even before we did the show, I bought this thing, and I think I tagged her and like 50 other people in the post, and I was like, we have to get a party together and watch this movie. This is a perfect like Friday night movie. Get your crew together, get a bunch of beer, whatever have you, and just bask in its epicness.
Seriously, it's amazing. Especially if you really love Evil Dead. Like, that's really what it reminded me the most out of any other movie. Definitely Evil Dead original, not necessarily the remake Evil Dead, because it has the same campiness. It has all the blood. It has the gore. It has likable characters. It has the characters you hate and don't care if they die. I mean, and then of course metal. Like, nothing's better than metal. Don't argue with me on that either.
Nothing better than metal.
Nothing is better than metal.
Can you say Deathgasm in your metal voice?
Would you want me to?
I really do.
Are you sure?
I really do. Deathgasm! That's how he says it in the movie, too.
Oh, wait. Do it again?
Okay, yeah. Come on. Deathgasm! Oh, my God. I can't wait for this. Please, for God's sakes, guys.
Seriously, watch
Go
it.
get this movie so we can get Deathgasm, too.
Or I will open my box and put your soul in there.
Dude, she will, too. I'm not even joking. It's harsh.
Ask him.
like
I've
that.
murdered him twice already.
Yeah, you guys have seen it in the things. It's pretty bad.
So now we are, for the first time, going to talk horror comic books. Well, at least one in particular. Freddie, what you got for us?
Oh. So I am going to take this time to talk something near and dear to my heart, and be patient with me, and I will get to the comic portion of this segment. As a fan of all things 80s and all things horror, one of my favorite people on the planet is George A. Romero, the creator of the modern-day zombie. If you too are a fan of all things 80s and Romero, then you'll understand the intro I'm about to give you. Man lives in the sunlit world of what he believes to be reality. But there is, unseen by most, an underworld, a place that is just as real, but not as brightly lit. A dark side. That's right, boys and girls. I'm talking George A. Romero's Tales from the Dark Side television show. For those of you not familiar, Tales from the Dark Side was a half-hour horror anthology show from Laurel Entertainment brought to us by George A. Romero and collaborator Richard P. Rubenstein. It features horror, sci-fi, and fantasy stories from writers such as Harlan Ellison, Stephen King, and Clive Barker. Recently, Joe Hill, the son of Stephen King, revealed plans to bring the show on, well, you guessed it, the CW. Ooh. Joe Hill, Alex Kurtzman, and Robert Orci were brought in to write the pilot. Orci and Kurtzman had recent success with rebooting the Star Trek franchise for J.J. Abrams. The pilot episode was filmed, and in true CW fashion, our hopes and dreams of seeing this awesome series return to the small screen have been crushed. Thank you. For the longest time, no news regarding the pilot came out or if any other company had bought the rights to the series. But about a week ago, we got the greatest news ever. Joe Hill, partnering with artist Gabriel Rodriguez, who had collaborated with on his hit Lock and Key comic book series, is bringing their vision of Tales from the Dark Side to the comic book pages. Each issue will indeed be its own short story, but will also have recurring characters or stories that will all culminate into one larger story. What are your thoughts on the show in general, and how do you feel about the new comic reboot, Ash?
Me and reboots have like a love-hate relationship. I try to give them a chance because in some cases, hey, they work really well. In some cases, they really don't. As long as they just do it correctly, kind of stick to the original, but do it in their own way, I think it can work. But other than that, I'm just not sure. Like, I know this is like your thing, so how do you feel?
Well, I believe we have a graphic we can pull up real quick. This is going to be what it's going to look like. This is Gabriel Rodriguez's artwork right here. I love Lock and Key personally. It's one of my favorite comics of all time. And Stephen King is such a huge collaborator with George A. Romero. They're like besties,
And he's
man.
fantastic.
Exactly. And Joe Hill as a writer is really, really good. I actually, at Texas Frightmare Weekend about 2 years ago, they had a screening of Dawn of the Dead at the Alamo Drafthouse, and George A. Romero, Tom Savini were there. And both of them had worked on Tales from Dark Side for so long. And I actually Apparently, I was the first person to break it to him. I was like, "Hey guys, what do you feel about the Tales from Darkside remake?" And Romero goes, "The what?" And Savini goes, "Wait, what?" And I'm like,
Way to break the news.
"Oh, my bad, guys." And so Savini kind of looked at me and was like, I think I heard about that, but I got nothing to do with it. And of course, me being nervous because Tom Savini is looking at me, I'm like, I'm not going to watch that stupid thing anyway. Apparently, I just made him giggle. But Joe Hill, son of Stephen King, I think it could work.
Yeah.
He's grown up with Romero, just like Ozzy Argento, Dario Argento's daughter grew up with Romero. They're all friends, so I think it could work. I mean, some of my favorite episodes were written by Romero himself. There's the Devil's Advocate episode, which Jerry Stiller, Ben Stiller's father, he plays this talk show host called the Mandrake, and he's spouting evil stuff, kind of very much reminiscent of Trump, honestly, just talking all this crap about people and their lives, how everyone's living it wrong if you're not Republican, basically.
Oh, Lord.
And in the end of the episode, the more crap he talks to people, the nastier and more trollish he looks. And it's this great Savini makeup that just transforms him throughout the whole episode till you find out he's in his own personal hell, stuck in that radio station, listening to things he hates and talking crap about him. And that is what I love about Tales from the Dark Side, because it's set in one room. You're more of a Tales from the Crypt fan, but Tales from the Dark Side, they had far less money, and that was how Romero used to do everything. So it was always these one-room settings, but the actions and the actors and the story was so compelling. You watch the whole thing.
Made it work.
Exactly. Another one of my favorite episodes is called The Odds, and it features Danny Aiello from the Godfather franchise. And if you saw that movie, Do the Right Thing, Spike Lee's movie, he plays the guy who owns the pizzeria. He plays a bookie named Tommy Vale, and the whole thing's set in a bar. And his associate is trying to get him to use a calculator for the first time, and it makes noises and stuff like that as he's calculating on it. And in walks Tom Noonan, who, dear God, I am a huge Monster Squad fan. He played Frankenstein in Monster Squad, so Tom Noonan is one of my favorite character actors. He goes in and makes these ridiculous bets on the most crazy odds and wins every time. So as the episode progresses, Tommy starts realizing that Tom Noonan's character, Bill Lacey, was actually someone he knew 20, 40 years ago who died. And he's come back from the grave to make Tommy Vale lose because he committed suicide because he owed Tommy so much money.
Sheesh.
And so he's sitting there and he makes his final bet. He's got 60 grand on the guy. And Bill Preston goes, "All right, Tommy, I'll make you a bet. I bet that 8 a.m, right at this spot in this bar, you're going to die." And so the last 5 to 10 minutes of the episode is the two of them sitting in a booth at that bar with one guy who looks very just creepy big brother, probably a demon, with Bill Lacey's money, and then you get another mob kind of mafioso guy looking after Tommy Vale's money. So they sit there the whole night, and there's this tension the whole episode as they're just watching each other, seeing Tommy's mortal, so he's falling asleep every 5 minutes, he's waking up, and Bill, Tom Noonan's character, just sits there staring at him the whole time, never moves.
That's not creepy.
So crazy. By the end of the episode, Tommy comes out and he goes, "You know what? I beat your odds because you don't understand the human spirit." And Tom Noonan's character, Bill Lacey, walks off as he's lost, goes back to hell. And Tommy, starts writing down some stuff. And associate's like, "What are you doing, boss?" And he's like, "I'm writing my last will and testament." And he starts laughing. He's like, "I'm going to die laughing. I'm going to die laughing because no one's ever beat me." And you find out that when he got up before the whole thing started, he put the clock 5-10 minutes ahead. And so he's like, "You know what? Go get me a beer real quick while I write this out." Guy goes get some beer, comes back, and Danny Aiello's character, Tommy's just sitting there like this, dead. And the credits roll, and it is one of the most awesome moments in television history to me. You get so many moments like that. That's one of the things I appreciate the most about Tales from Darkside. These characters are so good, and these character actors that come from it in such these simplistic, simple situations. And that's what I love about horror, is the horror can come from the smallest thing.
Yeah, I wanted to toss in here real quick. Crystal Star Wars said the Diggle Wiggle, and then Dallas Spidey said, "If I donate $5, will Freddy the villain do the Diggle Wiggle?" And then PB Malott says, "I'll donate 10 if they both do it." So what the heck is the Diggle Wiggle?
Really?
What is the Diggle Wiggle? I don't know what the Diggle Wiggle
I'm like
is.
over here pouring my heart out from Tales from the Dark Side. I'm not doing this.
Oh,
Dear
Lord have mercy.
please no. Anyways, I want to say thanks to Seawar Cats for donating $25 to us. So, thank you a lot.
Okay, so what? How do we have to do the Diggle
Do
Wiggle?
we really have to do Diggle Wiggle?
How do you do the Diggle Wiggle? I'm a
don't
white
know.
girl. I don't know how to dance.
I'm Mexican. I just suck at everything, though. I'm not doing the Diggle Wiggle. Dear God.
Make them do the Diggle Wiggle.
Please no. Anyways, those are my favorite episodes about Tales from the Dark Side. You have any you want to talk about?
I know that Stephen King and Clive Barker did 2 episodes.
Those are awesome.
One's called The Word Processor of the Gods, correct?
Yes.
And then the other one is Yattering and Jack.
Yes.
Yeah. I know the Stephen King one is about a word processor. The character gets, his nephew gives it to him as a birthday gift or is just as a gift. And whatever he types in the word processor becomes a reality. And his life sucks. His son is disobedient and rude and etc. His wife is not much pleasant. And he basically ends up erasing his son. And then before the word processor completely demolishes itself, he rewrites his life, making his nephew his son. And I thought that was interesting.
It's
and it's
so
also
crazy.
based off, I think it's like a short story
One
from
of
his
King's
skeleton.
short stories, yeah.
Was it Skeleton Crew, I think?
Yes.
Yeah. So like, and I'm a huge Stephen King fan, so that's a
Well,
winner for me.
for Romero, he did a lot of that too. He would take a lot of his short stories and be like, "All right, go on, George, you can use that. No big
Yeah.
deal."
I mean, and it's Stephen King.
All right, real quick, almost nerdy Ash. I will do the Deathgasm spasm one day. I will not do it today, but in celebrate, if we can get enough people to purchase Deathgasm and we get Deathgasm 2 Gormageddon, I will do the Deathgasm spasm.
And if they buy it, they should tag us.
Please tag us. And some donations to the show would not hurt either. I'll do the Deathgasm spasm whilst doing the Diggle Jiggle. I don't even know how I'm going to do it, but I'll do that if you donate to the show. Because I love you guys that much.
Come on, you know you want to. I mean, who doesn't want to see Freddy
You can
do that?
feed my addiction for Tales from the Dark Side. I'll buy the comic, man. I will buy 20 copies. I'll hand them out like candy.
Go over to the door. Do you want to learn about Tales from the Dark Side?
So, donate and tune in next week to see if we do the Deathgasm spasm.
So, well, there you have it. Another horror-filled episode. Today, we strolled through the mess that is the Hellraiser franchise. We talked about how metal music can save the world from demons. And we let Freddy get his jollies from Tales from the Dark Side. If you would like to continue this discussion outside of the show, we can be searched on any social media using the handle NerdNinjaNet. For your Fright Master Freddy, I'm Ash Von Horror, and we thank you for watching the Nerd Ninja Horror Show. Now, Freddy, do your thing.
Oh, I'm so happy we're doing this. The dark side is always there, waiting for us to enter, waiting to enter us. Until next time, try to enjoy the daylight.
So I hit him with a dough. Walk into my Escalade, tell them boys I'm not afraid. Now let me welcome everybody to the Wild Wild West.